Today we're going to talk about mushroom coffee. What's the deal with it? It's increasingly a thing. I like coffee. Should I be paying attention to mushroom coffee? There are loads of health claims. Are they legit? Does this stuff taste good? Is it worth considering? And so in front of me I have a pretty wide selection, but not a comprehensive selection, but a pretty good selection of what's out there. We'll talk about what I've got, how much it costs, what's in it, and then ultimately, what does it taste like? And of course, should we be drinking mushrooms? So first up, we're going to go with the Four Sigmatic Protect. This is a coffee and mushroom blend. Now I start with Four Sigmatic because I would say that's the company that maybe couldn't claim to have invented mushroom coffee, but certainly popularized mushroom coffee. They've been around a good long while. Finnish founder who I think had written a book about how mushrooms are great and good for you and started a company to get people to drink more mushrooms, basically for health, because that's important to this person, that we drink more mushrooms. So this, I think, is a pretty classic example of what we're going to taste today. It's just a little sachet, about half of it's instant coffee. The rest is, in this case, what do we got? We've got organic chaga extract and organic cordyceps extract. Next up, we've got Dirty, a mushroom fella on the top there. Fancy box, but a mere 7 sachets. So I'm going to deduct some points that don't exist just for being inefficient in your packaging. Here again, we've got a combination of coffee, about half the sachet, lion's mane extract, a maca root powder, not a mushroom, ashwagandha, also not a mushroom, some vitamin B complexes, some other stuff, a lot of stuff in here. Sprouted mung bean, lemon peel, holy basil leaf. There's a lot happening in here. I will note that this total sachet is 2.5 grams. Something we'll talk about is dose. I can't imagine there's that much of anything if, what, like 56% of this is coffee. And so you've got like under 1.25 grams of other stuff in total. Anyway, that's Dirty. Next up, mushrooms for life, not just for Christmas. So this is organic cordyceps. This looks like a jar of instant coffee. I think it's about half instant again. And the rest, cordyceps. That's the Last of Us mushroom, right? They're terrifying. So is that a cordyceps? I feel like it's a cordyceps. Not a big serving, so we'll see what's going on there. Coffee powder is the first ingredient, cordyceps the second. We do also have vanilla powder and cardamom powder in this, which will be flavor. Next up, everyday dose. This one leaning into the mushrooms, man. Vibes a little bit more with your everyday dose. Take a dose. Look at the colors. Look at the colors on this. Really leaning into that holographic thing. I will say it does make the back of it much harder to read, is my old man complaint of the day. Interesting, this is the first product that's a US only product. These are all European packages. This is the first one that does have the kind of, this has not been evaluated by the FDA disclaimer. This is not here to prevent or cure any disease. But there are still many claims of things it will do. It'll boost your energy, elevate your mood, improve your gut health, and enhance your focus. Next up, a bit of a break from the other ones here. This is Laird Superfood. So this is Laird Hamilton, famous surfer type dude. This is his thing. This is an instant latte. Instant. Just add hot water. So the sachets themselves, 33 grams. 33 grams, that's a big sachet. Now, again, a lot of this is going to be coconut milk powder, coconut sugar, then some freeze-dried coffee, lion's mane, chaga, cordyceps, and maitake, a veritable smorgasbord of mushrooms, if you could have a smorgasbord of mushrooms. Sweden, let us know in the comments. I'm going to froth you up in a little bit, have a nice time. Now they also make, let me have some here, superfood creamer. This we can just add in a couple of grams to, that's the recommended dose by the way, to a brew, some coffee, I guess, and have all the benefits, all of the mushrooms, just not very much of the mushrooms, because again, this is mostly, coconut milk, coconut sugar, milk, dairy, sugar, alternative type things, and then some mushrooms on top, and a little bit of lots of mushrooms. In a similar vein, we have the Chagachino. I feel like I have that Al Pacino commercial stuck in my head now.
What's my name? Dunkachino.
Why I have that for Chagachino, I don't know. So this is chaga mushrooms, Ceylon cinnamon, which is nice, and a little bit of cacao. So friendly, you know what I mean? This, you're supposed to take a couple of shots of espresso, this, a little bit of milk, or maybe some drip coffee, a little bit of milk, this, shake it all up and have a good time. So we bought some of these. We'll see how they are. Dose, 6 grams of erythritol. So it will taste pretty sweet without having many of the calories, because that's an important thing. Don't really know how much of them. 706 milligrams of the mushroom blend. Pretty low, pretty low. They did also send us, and we'll taste them just because why not, chaga matcha and a reishi cacao. How very exciting. Took me a while to work out how to say the brand name properly. That's just me. Maybe you're all like, oh, obviously it's renewed because you are renewed by this, but I was just like, renewed? That's weird. I've been nude before, you can be nude again. You are renewed. We'll taste them all. We'll taste them all. Before we do that though, we should probably touch on the science behind these things here, because they all make these claims. Some of them, kind of caveat these claims with FDA, not approved kind of thing, but you'll see a lot of claims around mushrooms and health. Unsurprisingly, I did a bit of a deep dive on this to see what the actual evidence is like, what the quality of studies is like, and I was really quite surprised, because the strength of claims that you'll see around mushrooms as a kind of functional food is really pretty strong. If you're looking at evidence of this stuff, we're into the world of talking about health. I don't like talking about health, but just go with me. I generally would want to see a human randomized control trial. I think that's a pretty good claim basis, if that makes sense. For some of these mushrooms, I think like Cordyceps chaga, I could find no human randomized control trials. There've been a bunch of papers and studies done on these, all of these mushrooms, and sort of, in some cases, mechanisms proven or sort of suggested for how they might be functional foods. A lot of them have a long history of human consumption as part of sort of alternative medicine, for want of a better term, or traditional medicine. People have been using these as functional foods for hundreds and hundreds of years, but didn't see a ton of evidence that they actually work. The big sort of twist is there are some human randomized control trials for some mushrooms that do show positive effects. In most of those, though, the doses were pretty substantial. They were often in the sort of 5 to 6 grams per day of mushroom extract. Here, I don't think we've got above a gram and a half total of mushroom extract in any of these. Right? As we've gone through, they're mostly, if they've got coffee in them. Now, you could argue coffee's functional beverage. It's got caffeine in, that's a functional compound. That's true. You've got your phenolic compounds. Those are potentially good for your gut. That's a good thing. We've got all the evidence that coffee is associated with decreased risk of mortality, all that kind of good stuff. There's a little bit less evidence for instant coffee compared to fresh coffee on that front, but we're getting off topic. My point here is, I'm quite skeptical around any health claims around mushrooms because none of them have a recommended dose to achieve the effect. Unless I'm drinking 3, 4, 5, 6 of these a day, well, that might be quite a lot of caffeine in some of these because they've got coffee in there too. And so that might be more caffeine than might be recommended. And so I might be seeing some downsides of over caffeine consumption before I see the benefits of the mushrooms. I don't know. But I would just say if you're buying these for functional benefits, just read up on the doses required to make that happen that have come out of proper human randomized control trials. That's my recommendation, I guess. If you just like these, go right ahead. I don't know if I like these yet. Let's find out. I've got to tell you, there's a lot of smells happening right now, a lot of aromas, a lot of sensations in the nose. Some of the mushroom smells are quite savoury, if I'm honest. They're a bit brothy. They're making me feel like I need a little thyme in there. Mushrooms, maybe a cream sauce, that would be nice. But other smells are not savoury. I've got coconut, quite potently. I've got matcha, chocolate. This is very confusing. I don't really know what I'm in for. I don't know where my expectations are. Are they high? Are they low? Now, I will be using a spit cup, but don't worry, we'll also have a separate audio track for the slurps, and no one will hear the sounds of the spit cup, because Four Sigmatic up first, not potent. That's much more on the savory end. That feels like I'm making a risotto and I've done the dried porcini into the hot water and I'm infusing, and that's good. And then I've accidentally spilled some instant coffee into that broth. I'm very confused by the existence of that beverage. But maybe by the end of this it'll make more sense. Let's try the dirty. Smells more mushroomy. Well, not in a bad way. In a way I'm quite excited about, actually. My brain went to the English delicacy known as the chicken and mushroom pot noodle. And if you've never had a pot noodle, That's like a much worse version of like a good cup noodle with less interesting flavors, but adequate MSG, if I'm honest. That is like a powdered mushroom mix taste. Coffee is super, I keep forgetting to spit these out. The coffee is, again, not complex or particularly interesting. It's there as a kind of bitterness. It's not as dominantly bitter as the Four Sigmatic. That is just a hot mushroom beverage. That is a little bit like if Bovril was made of mushrooms. You don't know what Bovril is. Lucky you. Let's try the cordyceps. Mushrooms for life. Oh dear, that's... I actually put my nose in that. This smells entirely of cardamom. It's not my favorite of the spices. That is... Okay, look. Cardamom is a loud, punchy, sucks up all the oxygen in the room type flavor. And here, it has not been used with a particularly delicate hand. This, if you told me this was just cardamom tea, I would believe you. It's like a little brothy heaviness, earthiness in there. Not the most interesting or complex of mushroom flavors. Maybe that's why we don't eat cordyceps that much. I don't know. Or maybe because they just look weird. Could be both. If you love cardamom, I could see you getting down with this. If you don't like cardamom, everyday dose. Dose me up. Okay. Oh. The star is very instant coffee. Like very instant coffee. The other stuff in there is pretty subtle. And in other ones, the kind of mushrooms have appeared in the finish. This has a very short, sharp finish. Coffee, coffee, coffee. And it's gone. It's just gone. Weird. I think you could tell someone that was just instant coffee and they'd be mostly like, okay, it's not my favorite instant coffee, but I believe you. They wouldn't be like, is there mushroom in this? You'd have deceived them and snuck some adaptogenic mushrooms into their life. Haha. We're into a very different realm of flavor, I suspect now. Here we've had a little savory journey. Nothing has been particularly sweet to this point. Has been very savory, which is not a bad thing. We love savory things here. Savory things are delicious. Now though, second ingredient on this one is coconut sugar. And this is the sort of instant latte. Texturally interesting, a little bit of foaminess on there. It's quite thick and, I don't know, syrupy. Let's go with that. Let's have a taste. Goodness me. Laird is a man with a sweet tooth. That is... That's like a hot coconut cake that takes a weird direction. So it's very coconut, incredibly coconut. It's coconut milk, sort of. It's coconut sugar. I cannot tell you how coconut this is. And then there's just a bite of bitterness that comes in the back. It kind of derails the flavor where you'd want that kind of nice, sweet, coconutty, I'm having coconut cake kind of finish. Just kind of, in comes a sort of coffee taste to sort of derail you. If you didn't really care about coffee that much and you really love coconut, I could see you getting down with this. Now, they said a teaspoon is 2 grams. I put about 3.5 grams in this bowl. Here, I'm responsible for the coffee. And then we've added a little cream. It seems to separate a little bit, so we have to sort of mix it back in. Let's see what it does to nice coffee. Look, I should have known this was going to happen. If you brew a lot of light roasted specialty coffees and you put just like a little splash of milk in, it's not very good. The acidity is all over the place. The texture gets a bit weird. There's a sort of unpleasant, not quite right sweetness. In like a cappuccino or a flat white, they're balanced, they're tasty, but just like a splash of milk in a really nicely brewed light roasted coffee, I think just tastes super weird. And this tastes like that. So to some extent, successfully replicating I guess, the dairy experience with non-dairy things. It's still a little coconutty, but it's not nearly as coconutty as this one. I feel like obviously at this point I'm getting next to no mushrooms, right? I'd have to get heavy on the creamer and then I'd probably end up closer to this. I'm not sure it'd be a good time. How it would be with darker roasts, harder to say. Harder to say. But up next is our Chagachino. This again has been added to nice coffee, but there's no dairy component here. It's just like a... Ooh, hello, sweeteners. Wait, are you the monk fruit and erythritol? I would have just taken sugar, but no. Monk fruit sweetener, monk fruit extract, yeah. If you have challenges with monk fruit extract as a sweetener, you're not going to enjoy this. It's very explicitly that style of sweetener. It's very sweet, but not in a sugary way, in a sort of sweetener way. There's a mild mushroominess to it, but it's quite pleasant. And it's fighting here with quite complex coffee flavors. And so it's a bit more of a chaotic sensory experience. Kind of weird. I don't know. I didn't think I'd think this way, but so far I'm leaning towards a more savory mushroom experience than a sweet one. Now, the last two don't really count. They're not mushroom coffee. They're a reishi cacao, so like a hot chocolate experience that seems to separate in a slightly weird way. Very sweet again. Very, very, very sweet. Weird texture. Not a lot of mushroom. A fairly cheap chocolate taste, a fairly classic kind of, cheap cacao, cheap drinking chocolate kind of taste. But not much mushroom, for better or worse. Now, last one is the matcha. Two things are important here. One, I'm not a regular matcha drinker. And two, I haven't got that little bamboo whiskey thing, so it's not been bamboo whisked. So the texture obviously is my fault on that front. It should be frothy and wonderful. This is not that. This is just sort of a swampy green thing. Which is my fault. I should have done the good whisking. I didn't have the right whisk. We're not a matcha channel here. That's very sweet. Again, heavy on the sweetness. I feel like actually a lot of people don't like matcha because it isn't that sweet. It's this weird, green, grassy, savory thing that's a very sweet version of it. So if you like matcha desserts, I could see you getting down with that. If you like them very sweet, again, not much mushroom in there. Am I going to declare a winner today? No, I'm not sure I am. None of these feel particularly competitive to coffee, despite the fact that, these ones have coffee preloaded in them. I don't think you're getting the best of coffee in instant coffee that these ones have in there. I don't think they're particularly interesting, high quality coffees being instantized. There's probably a better word for that. Doesn't matter what it is though. They don't taste like they have the best sort of roasted coffee that was turned to instant at the heart of these things. None of them taste like high quality coffee in there. They're just like pretty generic instant taste. Obviously they're going to hit price points, and I suspect that's, a budget limiting factor for them. They're all quite expensive as a single dose thing. A little bit more expensive than good coffee, I would say, in some cases. We've got a lot of sachets here, which isn't fair. We'll put prices up per travel sachet, which is obviously much more expensive than per bag, and most of these come in like a bag or a jar that you can sort of dose out from. But they're still quite expensive. The thing for me, the remaining sort of thought is, I'd have to drink a lot of this if I'm chasing the functional outcomes. If I just like the taste of these, go ahead. If you enjoy these, the ones that I don't, but you do, there's no judgment here. We just like different things. That's okay. I like that you found something you like. And I like that I know a little bit more about what I don't like. That's the utility of this. But I would say none of these are going to be close to kind of functional doses unless you're drinking 4 or 5 of these every single day for potentially multiple weeks to replicate what they saw in the studies. Maybe it is possible that at lower doses they do have some impact. We just don't have that data, that proof yet. They're definitely a weird category, and I'm kind of confused by it. We did a lot about decaf last year, so if you are considering a coffee-like drink that doesn't have caffeine in it, do reconsider decaf. It's getting better every day all around the world. These mostly do have caffeine in. They'll list how much caffeine's in them. Not huge doses, up to sort of 100 milligrams, I think was the highest I saw in any of these. But I don't truly understand what's going on here. I feel like there's a bit of marketing happening, which is, hey, there's some potential benefits. We can turn those into beverages. We've got functional beverages now, and let's sell those without really facing like a burden of proof about the necessary dosages or the correct dosages or ideal dosages to get the results that are promised. And do you know what? I enjoy a placebo as much as the next person. But now I want to hear from you. Did you notice that I held a spit cup the entire time and failed to spit once? I feel like an idiot, and you can comment that I'm an idiot. That's okay. More interesting to me, though, would be your comments about whether or not you've tried these things. Is there one out there that I didn't get, that I should have done, that you think is really interesting? Have you had positive experiences with these? Have you tried them and been as confused by them as I am? Oh, and if you've got evidence, if you found a study that's really relevant that does show an effect in humans, leave the title of the paper down in the comments. I would be genuinely interested to check that out. For now, though, I'll say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.